Hey there, cats and kitties. I am the Blues Man, Johnny Blues. And with this video, I'm going to be doing a sort of first impressions semi-review of an anime series that I'm not actually picking up for episodic coverage. I completely, skipped past doing a review for the first episode, but I really found the second episode of it endearing. That is Demi-chan wa Kataritai, or interviews with, demon girls or whatever it is. I really found the second episode to be just really sweet, and I didn't want to go beyond, having watched it and not actually say something about it, but I didn't, pick up this show for coverage in any way, shape, or form. I didn't do a first impressions video from episode 1. I mildly enjoyed the first episode. It did get a little boring to me because there was lots and lots of exposition. I liked this episode even that much more than the first episode because you're dealing with the Dullahan character, and I don't know any of the characters' names. I haven't memorized them yet. You have, for all intents and purposes, the sensei guy, the teacher guy, who's very intrigued by demigirls, or demis, as they say in the show, and he wants to learn about them, and so sort of the main foursome of the cast, aside from him, there's a teacher who is like a succubus. You have a Dullahan. This is a girl who walks around carrying her own head. She's, basically headless, body-wise. Her torso has no head. There's a green flame that pops out of her neck and everything like that, and she has to carry her head around. You have a sort of vampire chick, and then you have like a winter maiden or a snow girl or whatever. I'm not exactly sure what that is, what that, what mythology that references. But this second episode was actually all focused on the Dullahan girl and the hardships she faces, even in this school. She was only first approached by the vampire girl in like episode 1 or whatever it is, toward the end of it, feeling very much, sort of lonely and like off in the corner and, ignored, and people being uncomfortable around her. And basically after the first episode, did you have the vampire girl going to this sensei, this teacher guy, and talking to him about what, kind of a demi she is, and all the ins and outs of that, what from mythology about vampires is true and what isn't, and is there a bloodlust, and all this kind of stuff. It was somewhat interesting, but again, it was lots and lots of exposition, whereas this episode, you got similar exposition, but there was much more, things going on. There was stuff happening, and it really revolved around, basically this Dullahan girl talking to the sensei and finally having, a shoulder to lean on. Someone she could explain how hard her life is dealing with people being taken aback by seeing, here is this girl holding a head in her arms. She has no head on her shoulders and everything, and how off-putting that can be, and how weird that can be, and how people can be afraid to talk to her. It almost seems as though the Winter Maiden, or whatever she is having a similar reaction when introduced to the Dullahan girl by the vampire chick. And I just thought it was really sweet that after spending some time talking to this sensei guy, eventually the Dullahan girl wants to kind of date him or go out with him and really figure out what that's like. And she's never had any experiences like this where she could sort of let her hair down and feel comfortable, feel sort of satisfied that people aren't going to judge her and ridicule her and be scared of her and push her away. And I thought it was really sweet. It kind of reminded me back in the day when I read Archie comics. There was a Archie comic where rather than Archie going after his two sort of main love interests, Betty and Veronica, he went on a date with Big Ethel, who was the big string bean geeky chick who was usually the laughing joke of the Jughead character. She was always after Jughead, obsessed with him, and he didn't like chicks or anything like that, so he didn't want to go anywhere near her. And so it was really kind of sweet that they got Archie together with her, and they went out on a date and everything like that, which was sort of uncharacteristic, but it made it that much sweeter. And that's kind of what this episode left me with. Really, compelled to want to talk about how sweet I found it. That effectively the vampire chick, in finding out that the Dullahan girl wants to go out with the sensei, she sets up a sort of thing that's, air quotes, an experiment where they can spend the day together. And it'll, like, her body will be left at the vampire chick's house, And basically the sensei will just carry her head around. And they're experimenting to see if this can be done. If she can have a relationship with someone where it's just her head being carried around. But it's unofficially a date between them. And they go and they eat. They, look at the water. They look at the sunset and everything like that. Meanwhile, back at home, there's hilarity ensuing. The vampire chick messing with her body, poking her boobs, and helping her to the bathroom when she needs to go. The only thing I kind of miffed about is that they didn't explain exactly what's going on with Dullahan, how she can consume things, and if she has no neck, like what does the underside of her skull look like? Is it just a flap of skin where the neck would usually be? Is there a hole there? Is there some sort of trans-dimensional portal so that when she eats stuff and consumes it, it transports itself into her body? Like, I don't know how exactly that works. I wish they would have explained that a little bit. But it was just sweet seeing the Dullahan girl being able to be herself and sort of be free of this judgment and this, fear that she was enduring every day. And then even seeing, the succubus chick, basically, in the first episode, I think it was, the sensei tries to approach her and get to know her before he, basically finds out there are demis that are students. And you have her backing off and being completely scared out of her mind to go anywhere near human beings because she has this natural, attraction that she brings forth in them and everything like that, being a succubi. And so, she's watching as the sensei is doing things for these girls to make life easier for them. Specifically the Dullahan, who he basically requests that she can be able to use a backpack instead of the regulation arm bag, because she has to use both arms to carry her head more comfortably, and it helps with the balance and all this kind of stuff. And if the principal or whoever it is will order that being the case, so the teacher can't, say, no, I want you to have the regulation bag and all this kind of stuff. The succubus chick, I guess she's like a coach or something in this school, she's impressed by this. And her heart is being warmed to the sensei, seeing that he is actually genuine. He is trying to help these demis and get to know them. And I really just thought it was a sweet, sweet episode that, this Dullahan girl, out of all of the characters, she's my favorite in the show. And while I won't be talking about it episodically, I didn't touch on the first episode with the first impressions video because I was kind of bored by it in places. This episode, they actually put, a momentum into it. They actually brought the exposition out in events that were happening, actions that were being taken. And it was this sweet backdrop of, here is this girl who has had to live a very restrained life and a very closed-in life because she can't really communicate with others. She hasn't figured that out yet. And people are too afraid of her carrying around her disembodied head, so having her be able to have someone support her and be a shoulder to lean on in the form of this sensei guy who is also, it's a mutual beneficial thing for him because he's learning about these demis, which he has always been curious about. I just thought it was a great, fun episode. And it made me really enjoy the prospects of the series. I can only hope that the episodes continue to be this interesting as we learn about the demis, and I'm wondering what the overarching plot is going to be. I guess you could kind of consider this the first impressions video for the series, but it took episode 2 before I got to it. But yeah, definitely my favorite episode of the series out of the 2 that have aired thus far. And the Dullahan chick is definitely my favorite character. And I just really loved that, she was able to be free with herself and sort of find herself through the support of her friends, the vampire chick, the sensei, and such like that. So yeah, otherwise I'd love to hear from you guys in the comments below if you've been watching this particular show, Demi-chan wa Kataritai, if you've been enjoying it. And, it's not one I'm going to be covering, but I'm definitely watching it. It's one of many I'm watching this particular season. I love how I hear so many people complaining about how awful the season is. I've got like 7 shows I'm reviewing and like almost half a dozen more that I'm just watching. Yeah, it's horrible. It's horrible. So, yeah, otherwise it'll be pretty much it for me on this. Hope this video finds you well, and I'll catch you all later. Peace.